Hi, I'm Chris from the technical sales team at Marineware in Southampton, and today we're going to talk to you about the Durepox range with an industrial aspect. Joining me today are a couple of my colleagues. First up, we've got Simon.
Hello, everybody.
And also joining us, we've got Glen.
Hello.
So Durepox, we use it mostly for race yachts in the marine industry, but it started its life out as an industrial application in buildings, and the automotive industry was picked up by an America's Cup sailing team, which then brought it into the yacht world, and that's how we've got it around here. So Simon, do you want to just run us through some of the industrial applications that it's good for and why?
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, I mean, just to give you a brief history, that we've done a few different videos on the Durepox, so there's some more detail on each one of the products that are available. But the history is that this product came from New Zealand. It's manufactured in New Zealand, and our history of Marineware is in the marine industry. And this product got picked up by the America's Cup team, specifically the New Zealand America's Cup team, which is a pretty successful team, and it became a thing for racing yachts to be finished off in it. It's got some pretty unique properties. Therefore, we've then taken it back to its original history of industrial use and found quite a lot of very unique and very special purposes for it. Some of which we're going to talk about today. Mold tools for large yachts, but also high temperature tooling for the automotive industry and other pre-preg industry. Race car parts, all sorts of carbon fiber parts. It's great adhesion to carbon. It's a very, very useful tool in this area. Jacuzzis and swimming pools, another area that's very high wear on paint and it has special abilities to deal with that. High footfall areas, so what we're talking about is like industrial floors, some theatres, train station platforms, those sorts of things. And finally, wind energy, both new build and repair, where we're using the Durepox and its toughness in that. Starting off with mold tools. Mold tools, okay, in their paces, these are molds which we create shapes out of in its very basic form. On the right hand side of the picture, you can see it, the green is a mold tool for a large yacht, and they quite often get damaged. If you look at all that detail in there, and we pull this large structure out of it, in this case in GRP, glass reinforced plastic, and all those sharp edges and things get damaged over time, and they need repairing. What you need is something really, really durable and tough to take that constant wear and tear as you're pulling things out of the mold tool. And Durepox does it. It's tough enough. Its adhesion is strong enough. It can be polished up to a gloss, and it's tough enough to take the wear and tear. But on top of that, when you go back into more industrial uses, we have pre-preg mold tools. These are mold tools that are cycled at high temperatures. And we've also, by accident, found that it's really good for that. The picture on the left is a carbon fiber tool, which makes carbon fiber parts. And we found that if we coat those tools, especially if they're getting some wear and tear and they need some repairs, if we coat those tools, they will take the high temperatures of an autoclave. We've been trialing them up to 120, 130 degrees with great success. I know some people have taken them up to 150. We're doing some more testing and we're learning a little bit as we go there. But 120 degrees, which is the most popular cure rate in the car world, for the very least, it takes it quite well. Its adhesion to carbon is superb as well, which sometimes can be an issue here when you're trying to coat carbon fiber, either tooling or finished part, which Glen will talk to you about in a little while.
Simon, Durepox has got a number of different products. What products are you using on these mold tools when you resurface them? Is it just the primer, or is there the clear as well?
Very good question, Chris. The mixture of the two. The primer is in itself a very strong, durable product, and we can make it in different colors. So the primer in this case is green for the mold tool on the right, and we can actually polish that up and leave that as a finish. But most people will put the clear coat, the top coat, over the top. Quite often in these mold tools, we use greens and blacks and dark colors, so we can see that they're all smooth before we start molding in them. So we use a combination of the primer and the clear. And the high temperature mold tools, we actually still quite often use a combination of the primer and its clear top coat. But we also use its clear top coat on its own. If they just want another thin resurfacing of an existing mold tool, the clear top coat does it just on its own.
Okay.
Glen, you've been involved in quite a lot of the car end of the industry. I think this project, this Bugatti Veyron, which was refitted and customised, was done up in your part of the world on the east coast of England.
Yes, people are using it a lot on carbon now, especially high-end cars and wheels, because the durability, the toughness, and the adhesion to carbon.
Okay, so one of the things that we quite often talk about in the carbon world and is pinholing in carbon. Quite often, if we don't have the luxury of an autoclave, when we pull our carbon piece out of one of those molecules I was just talking about, you get pinholing, and that can be a big problem to deal with. Give us the hints and tricks, Glenn, for dealing with pinholing.
So there's one little tip. If you know you're going to have to fill, is just to roll the first coat on. That way you're actually filling the hole instead of spraying over it, so you don't come back with sink back. So
the roller sort of pushes it into the pinhole, and helps that process, does it?
Yeah, and it fills the hole instead of just covering over the top of it.
Oh, good tip. Have you ever used the old pin trip where you do a little drop, you get a pinhole that keeps on coming through the carbon? You can use a little pin drop of the Durepox clear on that as well, can't you?
Yeah, and there's another one as well. If you've got quite a few pinholes, you can roll the first coat on and then sort of squeegee it in up and down.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That sounds like a good idea. Okay. We talk about the toughness of it, but how does that relate to a car? Say this rather smart-looking Bugatti that's in front of us. Where's it useful?
On the wheels, because it's obviously a lot tougher than the commercial 2-packs that are in the car industry. But on that hand, it's harder to polish up if you needed to polish anything. So we would normally put one of our clear coats over the top of it. Okay.
And Chris, I remember you telling me about gravel tests that they use in the automotive industry, and how the Durepox Clear performed in those.
Yeah. So a gravel test is kind of what it sounds like. They basically fire gravel at components to see how the paint adheres to it, like a massively scaled up shot blasting sort of thing. And the toughness of the clear Durepox allows it to hold on to the carbon very well, and it doesn't chip that much, significantly better than a lot of other products, and it adheres to the carbon. So we find a lot of sort of under trays and bumpers and things. It's a very good product for that to stand up to it.
Chris, while I've got you, how does the Durepox Clear match up against an automotive clear coat? UV wise, I'm talking there. Sorry.
It's a UV stable product, so it stands up. It stands up very well. As Glenn said, it's due to its toughness, it's quite difficult to polish. So it not difficult. It just takes a lot more time to polish. So if you're trying to turn things around quickly, it isn't always the best option. It's not like an acrylic top coat, but with a little bit of patience, you can still get a very good finish with it.
Okay, I know some people just get off the gun finishes with it, but that's very well. But yeah, I suppose you can't have
that's always the goal, isn't it? But
yeah, you can't have toughness without some negatives with it as well, I suppose. Yeah, that makes sense. Makes sense.
So next up's the next place we find it is with jacuzzis and swimming pools. It's tell us a bit about this, Simon.
Okay, now the history of this is quite interesting. I came across this with the Durepox guys in New Zealand, and actually one of those guys, oh God, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, I can't remember now, but actually out in New Zealand, painted his swimming pool with Durepox, and that was where the test started. And obviously swimming pools and jacuzzis, they can be problematic areas because you've got A, quite often warm water, but B, it's chlorinated and lots of chemicals, which can be quite hard hitting. So we have to be a bit careful what we use here, but Durepox works really well. Its combination of being an epoxy and a urethane gives it great chemical resistance. So we already knew it's performed on one of the Durepox guys' swimming pools. So with further tests were done, and we use it a lot on the super yacht world again. I'm sorry to go back to the super yachts, is where we came from, but we have jacuzzis and hot tubs on super yachts, which actually spend quite a lot of time empty, because when the boat's moving around the place, they don't have them full, but when they settle down, they fill them up. and they're used when they're in harbour or at anchor in some beautiful bay. Then moving on to actually the most difficult of the lot, which is the cruise liners. Those of you that have been on a cruise liner will know that the jacuzzis on deck in the sunny weather are the most popular part of the boat, and they're constantly got people in and out of them. And what happens is that they wear, I mean, they're made out of GRP, most of these things, GRP molds out of a bit like that yacht mold tool I showed you earlier. And people getting in and out of them so often, they just wear the gel coat, the layer of finish that's on them when they're new, just wears away. So you end up with teams of people going around to refurbish them. And this is where the Durepox comes into its own, because it's fast and they've got very little time to refurbish these hot tubs and jacuzzis, because the boats in normal times are constantly in service. So speed, durability, they have to get a thickness. It's all about thickness when you're doing swimming pools. You need a good thickness of paint. But speed and durability is why it gets them to a fast repair and a long-lasting repair. So yeah, jacuzzis, swimming pools, and on the super yacht side, the other thing is that most of the swimming pool coatings are fairly agricultural. That are on the market. They tend to be fairly rough and quite thick paint, which almost has a stippled effect to it, whereas the Durepox can be applied really, really well. So hence, jacuzzis and swimming pools are a growing area for us.
Okay, so the key to that is just lots of coats to get a good film thickness.
Yeah, lots of paint. I know it sounds like we're just trying to sell a bit more paint, Chris, but you do need it. It's there to stop. It's there to stop the water and the chemicals penetrating back to the substrate of the swimming pool, or the jacuzzi, which can be metal, it can be GRP, it can be all sorts of things, cement, like that, and it needs that thickness to stop those chemicals and that moisture working its way through them.
Okay, and of course we can do it we can do the primer in different colours for different paint schemes in pools and houses.
Yeah, of course, that's a good point. Actually, we had with the super yachts is we have to match the coatings that the deck of the super yachts painted in. Fortunately, that's our world as well, so it's quite easy for us to match them. But yeah, we can match the primer, which is the base coats that go on, to most RAL colours, or anyway, we have a lot of colours, thousands of colours that we can mix it to. So yeah, it's definitely an option for those interior designers as well.
Okay, perfect. Just because it's going to need a lot of editing, but Simon, your microphone's clicking a lot again.
Okay, I'll try and hold it away from me.
So another area that we see a lot of you coughed. So another area that we see a lot of use in Glen is with areas that are high footfall, have lots of people walking across them. There's a picture here of a London stage that uses it. There's what is it that is it just the hardness of it that makes this perfect for these sort of uses?
Yeah, it's obviously very hard and hard wearing, but they love it because the amount of equipment they're dragging over it constantly and the amount of people on it daily, it lasts. And then if it does get damaged, it's very easily be repairable. And because it goes off, obviously goes off quick, and we obviously do the accelerator, which they use just to bump it up a bit.
So they can just turn around repairs and repaints quickly.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And do they just use the primer, or are they using a clear as well?
They're using the primer, but sometimes they use the DTM.
Okay, so the slightly gloss version.
Yeah.
Okay, and then another area, not just stages, is in transport as well, where you obviously have thousands and thousands of people walking through every day.
Yes.
Is this a train station?
Yeah, it's British Rail have now signed a contract with one of our customers, so all the yellows and the greens and the greys on the train stations are Durepox.
Oh, okay, perfect. I suppose they've got lots of hazard areas and stuff they need to put down. So
yeah, and as mentioned earlier, we can mix the yellows and the greens and the greys to suit them.
Oh, that's brilliant. And they do that in the primer. And then are they putting a non-slip in there, or is it?
Yes, so they use a yellow primer and they put a non-slip in it, and then they put some clear over the top.
Oh, okay, wow. And again, it being quick must make it easier for them to do repairs and things at weekends and evening closures and stuff, I suppose.
Yeah,
That's really interesting.
Glenn, just Simon here. How do they apply that? Do they apply that by spray or roller or how?
They seem to sort of if they've got to do like a 3-foot section and a mask up 4 foot, and they'll just roll it.
Okay.
I suppose if you're putting non-skid in, the texture doesn't matter too much.
Yeah.
So you've got the accelerator, you've got quick walk-on time as well, which probably helps them.
Yeah. Yeah, perfect.
Interesting. Thanks, Glenn.
And then another area that we're seeing an expanding growth into is the wind energy. Obviously, the big wind turbines are starting to be built more and more out of composites. And Simon, what are the problems that they face other than hanging from big wind turbines in the middle of the sea?
Yeah, that doesn't look like a fun place to be on a bad day. But yeah, I mean, okay, the wind turbine industry, obviously we all know it's a big industry. It doesn't matter where you go, you see them out at sea, you see them up on the mountains, up on the hills, anywhere the wind blows. And they need service and repair, and they tend to be pretty harsh places to get to. Certainly windy places, that's why they've been put there. So what happens is that they get a lot of damage on the blades. You'd think even the ones out at sea wouldn't see that much damage, but they do. One of the simple things is every droplet of rain is actually formed around a dust particle. So when you take the tip speeds of these wind turbines when they're working, they're phenomenal. And so they're basically getting slowly shot blasted by the rain. And it's surprisingly the erosion they get on the front edge of the blades is quite quite shocking in some instances. They also have things like, unfortunately, bird strikes. They also get lightning strikes occasionally as well, all of which can create damage. So there is quite a lot of teams going out to these blades, whether they're at the top of a mountain or out at sea. It's very expensive to get them there. It's a very harsh environment, and actually the repairs need to be done fast, quick, and they want them to last as long as possible because it costs so much money to get up to these things. You know, you can see these guys in these images. They look fairly brave to me, but so yeah, they need the speed, durability, and longevity are the 3 key issues. And Durepox has done very well at that. We can match the colours again with the primer, and we can improve the UV resistance with the clear coat, which we can satin down because they don't want these things too glossy because they're not trying to reflect light everywhere, especially if they're near a built-up area. We've been doing this a while, actually, because we've been doing the Durepox repairs on blades for quite some time. The thing we're playing now is actually a specific product called Durablade. And Durablade actually comes from, it's a hybrid of another product we did actually for the America's Cup again, for those foiling catamarans, if anyone ever saw them going around in the America's Cup in America. We needed a tougher product. That's lending itself well to the front edge of blades as well. A lot of testing going on at the moment. The results are looking very promising. And where you get impact, this paint is so tough that it resists, it's so abrasion resistant is probably the key point here. And it resists that wear and tear they get from all of those tiny dust particles and a water droplet, and all of those strikes from debris or anything it gets in the storm. So that's quite new and exciting for us, and we're seeing that starting to build and increase. Okay,
I know. I'm presumably the just sea salty air and as well, having spent a lot of time sailing, that's pretty abrasive as well. So.
Yeah, Chris, you've got the salt in it. The salt from the sea, obviously, is if you're drying that and putting salt particles in with the wind, it's a bit like a shot blaster. Not quite as bad as your gravel test that you were talking about earlier, but it happens though. It's fairly consistent and fairly constant. Yeah, it's they're using some very expensive solutions at the present moment to get over this. They use Teflon tapes and things what we call helicopter tape. These are very high impact tapes that will take that sort of abrasion, and we're getting it in a paint which is much easier to use, much quicker to go off, much easier to apply.
Okay. Well, that's us covered sort of the main aspects in the industrial world that we do. Hopefully that's given everyone an insight into some of the uses of Durepox. Hopefully it's very obvious that it's a very versatile product. It's it's quick, it's cures fairly hard, and we're always getting weird and wonderful requests from customers for can it be used for this. So if we haven't answered your questions here, please feel free to get in contact with us at marineware.com. This is one of a number of videos we're doing into the Durepox line, and the rest of them will be linked in the description below, so you can go through and watch them as well. I think all that's left is for me to say thank you to Simon.
Thank you very much.
And thank you to Glen as well for joining us.
Cheers.
And I hope that it's been helpful, and